What is FIRE? It's an acronym for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I first heard about this movement around 6 years ago when I was living in super expensive San Francisco, California. Average rents at the time for a one-bedroom were in excess of $3,000. I met a young 30-year-old man while visiting Prague. I asked for directions to a castle and he happened to be American. So we struck up a conversation and shared some meals together. He told me about FIRE. He explained that he lived with his girlfriend in San Francisco where they shared a house with an elderly woman. He only paid $350 for rent. I was astounded. He also told me that he had over $700,000 in index funds and drove a car that he bought for $2,700. He said that it was his first ever vacation. He told me about Mr. Money Mustache. After this chance meeting, I researched FIRE and also looked up Mr. Money Mustache. However, at the time, I just didn't quite understand it and thought I couldn't do it. I just went back to my old ways. What do I mean by my old ways? Well, like most people, I just thought that I would have to work until retirement age, and then I hoped that I had enough by then to be able to retire. I never had a plan. I didn't budget, I didn't save very much. Granted, for many years I was struggling financially because California is very, very expensive, and I had and still have a sizable student loan. But nevertheless, had I planned and budgeted, I definitely could have saved more. It wasn't until I watched the YouTube channel, Our Rich Journey, which is run by the couple Christina and Aman, that I understood how to achieve FIRE. I definitely recommend that you watch their financial literacy videos, such as how they retired before the age of 40 and their videos on index funds and real estate. After watching some of our Rich Journeys videos, I tracked my expenses for a year. By knowing what my expenses were, I was able to use some online calculators to figure out how much I would need to retire. Of course, no one knows the future. Therefore, how much I need to retire is an educated guess based on certain parameters. What will my expected expenses be in retirement, which will be determined by factors that might change? So, for instance, I was explaining FIRE to someone on a first date. Yes, I like to share golden information about FIRE, and he said he was confused how one would know one's future expenses, and he also explained that he hoped in the future he would be in a relationship. Hence, there would be that unknown factor. So, as I explained, your estimate of your future expenses is just that, an estimate. We do not know now what the economy, world, inflation, etc. will be. Therefore, you just have to make an educated guess. If you track your expenses for at least a year like I did, you ought to have a general idea of how much money you might spend per month. So, let's say, you are a couple in the San Francisco Bay Area, like Christina and Aman were. Let's say you have no children and your monthly expenses average $6,000. If you intend to retire and stay in the San Francisco Bay Area, then, using the $6,000 per month expense number, your annual expenses would be $72,000. It will probably be more due to inflation in the future. But, let's say, you are flexible, like Christina and Aman were, and use the online calculators to calculate expenses for different parts of the world. Let's say maybe Thailand, Japan, Albania, Taiwan, or Seattle. Instead of paying the typical rent or mortgage in the SF Bay Area, your housing cost will be different. There are many sites and videos out there on how to achieve FIRE. I'll tell you what I'm doing. First, I watched our Rich Journey videos. Then, as I explained, I tracked my expenses for a year. I also put what I could, when I had the money, into index funds. If you don't know what index funds are, I could make a separate video on it, or please watch Christina and Aman's videos on index funds. Most of my funds are in Vanguard's VTSAX and ETFs that track the S&P 500 or are high yield. Do your own research. Let's go back to Christina and Aman, who are my gurus in this realm. They also invest in real estate and have passive income from their real property rentals. When they were on their FIRE journey, that is, before they achieved FIRE, they had so many impressive side hustles. For instance, they saw that a winery was throwing away the wood packing boxes. Wines are shipped in. They asked the winery if they could have those wood boxes. Then they used their creativity and craft and sold those boxes after jazzing them up. They also took wood pallets and made furniture and sold those too. Let's look at the U.S. stock market for a minute. Here's some historical graphs showing how the stock market has performed since its inception over 100 years ago. Prior to the pandemic, the average return from inception was about 10%. The average is now a bit lower, around 8%. Alright, there are some long periods where the growth was flat or minimal. But the overall trend, as you can see, if up. Therefore, as anyone will tell you, it's a long-term game. The longer you have money in there, the more time it has to grow, and you can benefit from compound interest. If the market continues its historical trend, then we can expect that the market will continue to go higher. Of course, if you happen to invest during a period of flat or maybe even negative growth and need the money before the market starts to grow again, then you may not have any gains. For instance, looking at the graph from 1966 to 1984, the graph shows the market was flat or maybe even underperforming. But let's say you happen to put some money in the market in 1984 or 1985. Look at the growth from then to now. I hope that illuminated you on fire, and I hope that you don't end up thinking that you can't follow or achieve fire. Really, anyone can do it. Of course, it might be easier if one's salary is higher. The first thing I would suggest is to track your expenses. For budgeting, there are many ways. One method is to use a spreadsheet such as Excel. Another method I just saw online is called cash stuffing or the envelope system. You can research that online to see if it might work for you. It's basically allocating your take-home salary physically into envelopes or folders with each one a separate expense category. For instance, rent, food, gas, utilities, Roth IRA, etc. To figure out your FIRE number, you multiply your annual expenses by 25. So, for instance, in that earlier hypothetical of a San Francisco Bay Area couple whose current annual expenses are $72,000. Assuming they use that number as their annual expense. Again, remember, it will have to be an estimate. Their best guess, then, 72,000 times 25 is $1.8 million. Again, if that same couple decided to, for instance, retire in Thailand or Albania or North Carolina, then their annual expenses may be much less than $72,000, or it may be higher. I found using the online calculators to be helpful in these hypotheticals. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Thanks. I made this video with the help of AI tools and AI sites. I used 11 labs for the audio and DID for the video generation. Some of the images are photographs I took, and some of the images were created with the help of AI with tools such as Stable Diffusion, sites such as Leonardo.AI and Artroom.AI.